Hey, welcome to Hot Takes. I'm your host, James Scott, here to analyze anything and everything interesting. Let's dig into today's topics.
Let's go, everyone. You already know who it is. James.
Let's go.
Chris.
Let's go.
And we're back with another episode. And James has got some things to talk about.
Oh, yeah, I do. So, out here on, the baseball content creating landscape, right now, I'd like to think that we kind of dominate the Spotify side of things. I don't know any of the others that are, major Spotify podcasts, and I think we're making pretty good headways here. But there's quite a few that are very good YouTube pages. And obviously some have bigger strengths in some ways than others. Like Robbie Hyde, he's fantastic at out of the box thinking. He's really good at being flexible with his ideas that he's taking in and different people's opinions. And he's not a guy to just close out opinions without fully considering them. So I have a lot of respect for him there. Mark, he sticks to his points. If he truly believes something, then, he's going to stick by it and defend it. And, even if he has to, seem as if he's being rude, like at the beginning and the end of the day, he believes in something strongly enough that he'd fight it. He'd fight, for that belief because he believes in it that strongly. So that kind of conviction, being able to stand by your points to that degree, I respect that. I really do. And he's also fairly learned, and I have seen on a year-to-year basis, he's become a better and better analyst. I remember one time I hadn't watched him for about like a year and a half, and I watched one of his videos, and I was like, wow, he's grown by leaps and bounds. So he's definitely somebody who is a good analyst. He's more of a guy to listen to than a guy to interact with, if that makes sense, though, because he's so, attached to his points that if you tell him something that he disagrees with, he vehemently disagrees with it too. So it's not like I think is going to be in a position to hear you as much. I think in person, absolutely 100%. But I've tried, over a live stream a few times how he is. He doesn't consider the full sides of other person's points if he's already come to a conclusion. Whereas Robbie's willing to rethink out things in moment. So I mean, honestly, they're both great analysts, but I guess that the bigger difference is I feel like Robbie has less of an ego about it. Like, no disrespect to Mark, because I respect him for having that conviction. But it also stops him from being able to take in certain amounts of information, if that makes sense. Like if he makes a decision, he's going to be able to really commit to it and feel strong about it. Whereas I feel like Robbie, he'd always be considering if there was better options out there because he'd be able to take in more information freely. So each analyst has their own way of being, but you can work your way around to all of these sites and all of these different pages. There's a certain page called Baseball Doesn't Exist. And I'll tell you, as far as, analysis goes, and as far as being able to break down the full side of a bunch of these stories, he was able to pull up even the stuff from that Reddit user that I had talked about on here from the Astros scandal. Like he pulled up the actual Reddit clips. Like this is a guy who he's able to get his hands on a lot of research. And I'd be willing to bet that he's pretty active in the Twitter sphere. I kind of stay out of that because it seems like just arguments all the time, fairly hostile. And I'm not, down for that kind of internet, World War I trench warfare type communication, if you will. But, it can sharpen your mind to such a degree. I know that because my dad's a lawyer. It sharpened his mind. He's one of the more brilliant minds that I know. So, hat tip to Steven Scott out there, but no, but like talking about, again, this guy, a Baseball Doesn't Exist. He's made a lot of fantastic videos. So he made one recently about Jose Altuve. Yeah, okay, we're getting around to the cheating Astros. We're getting around to that part of the video.
We just can't break away from them.
It'll always come back. it'll always come back. Like, even if it's like, we're 20 years from now, we're going to find a way to compare a player now to a player then, or we'll find a way to keep it in the show.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy, he made a fantastic video. Go check it out. Baseball Doesn't Exist. He did it about Jose Altuve, and how Jose Altuve may have definitely participated in the cheating scandal. Probably, if they did something other than, getting the trash can bangs or the whistles. He probably, if he cheated, as much as everybody else did, it was probably in some other means, by some other means. And the numbers falling off the way that they did, that does indicate technically that he did cheat. And there's a lot of proof, especially that, at bat versus Chapman, that he did cheat. But the buzzers, that's kind of been ruled out. And, if you look at this guy's video, which, it goes way more into detail than I could ever go into with this, you become fairly convinced that even if Jose Altuve had done it here and there, he clearly didn't like it. He clearly didn't want it going on. The other players on the team say as much. I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass, given that he had a fantastic career before the cheating, before any of that stuff was even involved. And now that we have video evidence of him, like, literally getting angry in the batter's box, looking into the dugout, them not doing any of that for the rest of the at-bat or the rest of the season. So, at least from video evidence. So it looks like he didn't want to do that after a certain point. So I can go a little easier on him than a lot of the other Astros. Now, that still leaves Bregman and Correa as the main two that I have massive issues with. But now, hey, we've got it down to two guys to hate. So, assuming Correa moves on from the Astros after the season, if they can just get rid of Bregman, then in theory, I don't have very many reasons to hate that team anymore. Everybody's moved on. Even their manager is gone. So I'm hoping that this offseason they get rid of Bregman. I'm praying to God, because the Astros are a great team, and it would really suck for a great team to be full of cheaters. Mm-hmm. It would really suck to see a team that's achieving to the degree that they're achieving to have to be stained by such foul behavior. But hey, at least we've narrowed it down to two. And then there were two. We got to get some Highlander going on in here, and then we get it down to one. There we go. But anyway, that's a movie from the 80s reference. I believe 80s, right? It can't have been the early 90s. Highlander has to have been 87 or something, Last of the Mohicans, somewhere around, maybe earlier.
1986.
86. Oh man, I was close. I was 87.
That's
no,
the
86.
movie. It's the movie, yeah. I believe.
Yeah. No, then there can only be one. But yeah, no. I think that if you can look past Correa and Bregman, then it's a little easier. When the Astros do end up winning. But hopefully Correa is gone after the year. Hopefully Bregman gets dealt. And then we can just kind of breathe a bit of a sigh of relief. And I'll bring this up because this, of course, this will get commented on. But Yuli is still there. Yuli had just come over from Cuba. Yuli, from what I understand, wasn't exactly the greatest with English at that point in time. And certainly he would have adhered to whatever norms were going on with the team at that point in time. I'm not going to throw away this guy's entire career in Cuba, which was storied. He's if there was a Cuban Hall of Fame, he'd be right in there. Just because he joined a team that the norm that was already established was them doing that. Beltran was there that year. I believe a few others were there that year too, like, that had been around the league for a while. Like, was Reddick there that year? I think Reddick was there that year. The point is that there was a bunch of people that had already been doing it, and he was brought into that culture. And in fact, now, all these years after both of the cheating years, after the 2019, after 2017, and again, I'm convinced that they did cheat in some form in 2019. I'm absolutely convinced of that. I think that the forms that they could be cheating with now are so close to undetectable that, we might as well pretend that that the cheating is not going on, because it could go on with everyone. You could have someone with the binoculars out in center field. As soon as they get the catcher signal, they put, a hand on their chest, or they keep it by their side, and exactly where they're sitting, because they're sitting in one part of, like, Yankee Stadium, left field. There's a little oddity in the ballpark, because all of a sudden you'll have the bleachers, and then they'll break inward at an angle. And if you're standing, nobody's behind you, so you can stand. So if you want to go to the ball game and you want to put your stuff down and stand and have a little space, it's a great seat to get, but also it's unbelievably visible from the batter's box. So if you have somebody standing there and, like, they have a handkerchief, and they take out their handkerchief to wipe their, sweat off their face when, it's a fastball coming or something, or if it's a breaking ball coming, you get the idea. Then you see what I'm trying to say here? Like, you can do that type of thing. But if, every team could do that. Every team could hire, any player could hire someone to do that for them. So, hopefully we haven't really gotten into that part of the era, but baseball doesn't exist. Thank you so much for your video. Respect. And yeah, we can kind of let Altuve. I don't have to like him, okay? Because I think there's enough evidence to show that even if he wasn't one of the people who cheated as much as others, I think there's a lot of evidence to show that he didn't really stop it from going on when it was going on, and he was one of the leaders of the team. So it's kind of like with cops, like, if you see something that's going on that's really not okay, and you don't step in the way, like, you're partially complicit. It's like, I think that's kind of, how I'd feel about Altuve. I don't like him. I should like him because of his numbers, and I should like him because, we've gotten a little bit of stress and weight off of him, if you will. But given that, he really didn't, blow any whistles himself, and he really could have, I don't have to like him. I really don't. So, and that moves us on to our next subject, because I don't want to talk about something that this kind of sad and heavy, for this recording. I want to talk about Aaron Boone. Now,
what did Boone do?
So what I'm hearing from Hal Steinbrenner, what I'm hearing is that they are thinking about bringing Boone back. And as far as I'm concerned, that's one of the worst things that they can do. If they're bringing Boone back, by the time this roster is in a place to win, look, here's the deal. There's three directions the Yankees can go as far as their front office goes. They can take the guys who are good now, and they can try and win now and not win later, and build around the guys who are good now. Or they can understand that the guys that they have that are good now, while they're very good, are not quite as on the same trajectory as the collection of younger players who are going to be in their prime all at the same point in time. However, it is reasonable, and this is the third way to put together the team. It is reasonable to think that some of the guys, if not most of the guys who are win now players, could possibly extend enough of their primes to be effective later on. And I think that's kind of the direction that the Yankees should be going. And that's, usually the way that they go. The Yankees aren't a win later team. They're either a win now team or they're a win now and later team, both. And I think that's the direction that they're going to go. They're going to keep trying to win now, but they're also going to get players that will allow them to win later. I think the Yankees, the reason why they got Odor, the reason why they got Gallo, is because they know that the shift being limited is coming. I think that Stanton playing the field brings another level out in him. He becomes basically how he was in the National League. I think he needs that to be in his legs, have that coordination and timing a little bit better. I think Judge has proven that, he can play a competent center field, although I'd certainly give him lots of breaks. I'd alternate him at DH with Hicks, because Hicks was the former center fielder, and he has injury issues too. So get Judge off his feet, you put Hicks out there, mainly keep Hicks off his feet to keep him healthy. I think that can work between DH and center field. And, having a guy like Luke Voit being healthy for a full year rather than hurt like he was this year, almost the whole year, that can really help as well, for sure. And if not, if he goes down, you put LeMahieu over there. Whether they go with Torres at second or Odor at second and Torres at third, I don't think Torres is going to be the shortstop. So they got to go get a shortstop. And, if you go with Odor and LeMahieu in a platoon, or even just, Odor with it doesn't have to be somebody as high quality as LeMahieu in a platoon like that, but someone in some sort of mix with Odor. And you say you go with, Torres at third, and then you just get a shortstop. I'd be very comfortable if the Yankees were to just then go get a backup catcher. But I don't think that that's, if the Yankees are really trying to win now and they don't feel comfortable putting Odor in an everyday role and they don't want to do like a platoon, and you're going to keep Torres at second base. If that's the route forward, Torres at second base, that's really the more pertinent point here. If Torres is at second base, not third base, not shortstop, in my opinion, they need to go get a third baseman too. They need to part with Gio. Gio's a great fielder, can hit a little bit, sure, but you need a middle of the order guy there. I met Cashman once, and the one thing that he imparted onto me from, just what type of players he goes after, he likes big players. He likes his big, hairy winning machines, I believe was what he said. He said something along those lines. So Joey Gallo, Stanton, Chapman to a certain degree, because I believe Chapman's like 6'4". LeMahieu, I believe, is 6'4". So he likes these bigger players because these players can have, they can have the approaches that they have, but because of how big they are, they can hit the ball in areas of the strike zone that gives them zone coverage, just naturally, without overextending themselves, without becoming too aggressive. They can just do that. So I understand the reasoning there. But I do think diversity of approach in terms of percentages and as far as swinging, not swinging, just now having lefties and righties, they did bring that element in this year. I think that you need those in order to have victory here. So you go with, say, Chris Bryant, somebody who's 6'5" for third base. You go get someone for shortstop, Story or whoever, and you go get an ace. I don't know what ace they're going to get, but I do know, maybe you couple that ace by taking the money that you gave to Kluber and you bring back Tanaka, because I know he wants to come back over. He says he has quote unquote unfinished business in New York or MLB or both. I know unfinished business was his words. So it's one of those things where I think it's basically like a 3-player, 4-player change, and the Yankees will be in a position immediately to win next year. But also at the same time, you get those players in there. Chris Bryant should still be good for the next 4 or so years. Trevor Story should be good for the next 4 or 5 years. So they're not just win now players, but they help during the years where the Yankees are going to be getting better and better and better. Now, that being said, if you have a guy like Aaron Boone managing, even if you get a whole bunch of guys who are going to win right now, the way he's going to put them together is going to be in such a way where they're not going to be in a position to really win until he has become quicker as a manager. And that's the big thing that I say about him. It's not that he's dumb. He's a very smart guy. Boone is one of the smarter guys out there that I know of in baseball. It's that he's not fast enough. He can't think ahead as quickly as other managers. He's not managed before he came to the big leagues. Like, it's such a disservice just having him do that. He should have been in AA, then in AAA, then a bench coach. So basically, it's the crash course, if you will. And we're still going through it like 3 years in, 4 years in. I think it's 4 years now. 4 years in. So you got to think, is it going to take 6 years of being a manager for him to get it together? Is it going to take 7 years? How many years is it going to take? Do we have to wait till the end of next year? When is he going to be able to have caught up fully? You know what I mean? Think about all the different perspectives, not just, the speed of the game, but also how to understand how to get what's inside a player's head to line up with how to use their skill set based off of the situation and based off of what you have to deal with in the lineup that can complement them, Because if you have all of that going on, the player can buy in, they have consistency, they feel comfortable, the position suits their skill set, and the players around them suit their skill set. If you have ballpark going for them too, then everything clicks. But if you change up the lineup all the time, every single day, they're not going to have any sort of solid ground to stand on. And then you add on the fact that I always talk about is they don't even know whether they're going to come to the ballpark to drive in runs or to get on base to be driven in, and then of course you add on the fact that all these different defenses that they can put up to defend against you based off of your batted ball spray. Maybe your batted ball spray becomes more predictable because you're off balance, or you hit the ball less hard because you're off balance, and then you're facing different pitchers every single day with different strengths. It's just Boston really did it the right way. Very, very stable day-to-day lineup. Lefties, righties, guys who know that it's their job to drive in runs, guys who know that it's their job to get on base to be driven in. Guys who are good at base running, guys who are great at defense. And then at the positions where they don't have the greatest defense, they can counter for it. Like, for instance, the left side of Boston's infield is not exactly that good, Bogarts and Devers, but they have the green monster back there. So if they put somebody like, Verdugo over there, who's got a cannon of an arm, anything that gets past Bogarts and gets past Devers, you're probably going to keep a guy at first base. So it's just a single. You got the double play in order. So, again, yes, also the monster being that close makes it so that people can hit the ball against it and, easily get doubles. But here's the deal. They're playing in that ballpark 81 times a year. So it helps righty hitters because righty hitters become more aggressive and they're able to pull the ball more and hit against that monster. Lefties, however, tend to have V swings where they go directly at the ball. And the reason why they go directly at the ball is because it allows them to pull the ball, and lefty swings tend to be a little bit less coordinated than righty swings. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but on average, that tends to be the case. So what ends up happening is if you realize that if you just get under the ball a tiny bit and you end up slicing it, in another ballpark, that's a fly out to the left fielder. So you don't even want to do that. I mean, if you're swinging and getting under the ball a little bit, the more that you swing that way, the more that you get that swing in line, the more you're going to hit the ball in the air. But if you're uncomfortable doing that because you get easy flyouts to the left fielder, then you're not going to take the chance of swinging under that many balls. But in Fenway, if you slice it with strength it'll hit up against the green monster because the green monster's that close, and you'll still get a single or a double out of it. So it makes you more comfortable as a lefty hitter swinging and hitting underneath the ball, which makes your swing more fundamentally sound over time. So it's a hack of a ballpark. You know, Yankee Stadium is short to all fields. Okay, so are a bunch of parks. But Fenway, oh my God. Fenway's a hack of a park if you want to develop hitting. So, but anyway, to go back to, Boone real quick, if he stays with the Yankees, even if the Yankees get a whole bunch of really good players, until he's a good manager, I don't see this team, really winning a World Series, even if they have a great combination of players, because there's a whole bunch of other teams that are going to be able to compete in that kind of way that are managed a lot more properly. And one of the big things that the Yankees always focus on is they want guys who are great for many years. And even if they have their flaws, we're not going to get rid of them if they're going to be great for many years. Even if the roster is not as balanced, we're not going to do that. We're just going to keep getting guys who we feel could balance out the roster, and we're going to keep the best guys. And I certainly like that. I certainly like the idea of just accumulating talent and, sorting it out, and like over time, just having, hung on to the best players that you've gotten, especially the ones that are going to stay good, the ones that don't have reasons to fall off. But at some point in time, you need balance. And at some point in time, you need a manager who's going to be able to play the roster the right way. And, if Boone comes back, I worry about some of the guys who just haven't emerged. Like, I worry about him actually ruining Torres, actually ruining Andahar, actually ruining Florial, Frazier, maybe even Dominguez when Dominguez comes along. These guys need a manager who knows how to deal with young players, who's gone through this before. They cannot take a chance with this many players who are developing. It's paramount that you have these players in a position to execute their skill sets. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Plenty of young players never developed for one reason or another. And I'll tell you, a darn good reason to not develop is being played completely the wrong way. And it's not just Boone, by the way, it's his coaching staff. Like, Matt Blake was hired separately, so not counting him. Eric Thames, he very clearly is teaching hitters who should be aggressive, like Torres, like Sanchez, to be way, way more patient. And while it's fine to work your way towards patience, I don't think it's fine to teach a guy who's at a point in his career where he should be aggressive. He should be learning what he can hit and what he can't hit, to only swing at strikes. Swing at what you think you can hit. And when you learn you can't hit it, work your way back. So, the fact that wasn't exactly the approach at the plate for him, for Torres, for Sanchez, I think that kind of hurt both of them. And not even kind of, really hurt both of them. And I think it's hurting Urshela right now. I think it has a high possibility of having impacted LeMahieu this year, the way like LeMahieu's numbers have dropped. Even though, I'll be real, he was never what he was the last, couple of years. I don't think I really trust his hitting coaching. Certainly Gallo was a much better player with Texas than he was with the Yankees. So, maybe there's a little bit of a fault in the hitting coaching. Look, I'm willing to say, you know what? We're just going to count it up to just whatever for the hitting coaching. But when you see the kind of base running that this team had with Phil Nevin at third base, it's like, okay, wait a second. So Phil Nevin and the hitting coach and the manager, all three of them seem inept. Like, who are the other main coaches of that group? You got the bench coach, okay, who's probably reinforcing what the manager is preaching. You got the first base coach, who's probably telling, the hitter who's just finished his at bat what he did right. So reinforcing what the hitting coach is saying, and also reinforcing what the third base coach is saying by saying, look for the signs. This is this is this. You're obviously not giving things away when you're out there, but say look for the signs, and you say, okay, this outfielder maybe has not been, and we've been tracking how, his turns on the bases. Point is that as a first base coach, you're working a lot with base running with the third base coach. So for me, it's like wholesale, get rid of Boone and his coaches, keep Blake because Blake was hired separately, and just get all new ones, because it's one thing to waste Mike Trout out in LA. It's a whole nother thing to waste a whole entire team of talent year in, year out. Don't get me wrong, the Angels certainly had a group of talent, but the amount of young talent that they have and have had in the past is nothing close to what the Yankees currently have right now. And this is coming from a guy who looks at the top 400 and tracks the top 400 and works on it every day, all day. The number of position players in the majors and minors that the Yankees have on this list is obscene. And if they somehow come out of this without any championships, I mean, that's going to be one of the saddest things I've ever seen. Because this is an obscene amount of talent. It's an absolutely insane amount of talent. I think, Chris, on our next show, we're going to talk about how some of the talent that the Yankees have added was very clearly in anticipation of the shift going away.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the reason why they kept investing in Bird was because of anticipation of the shift going away. I think when Didi came in and they kept him around as long as they did, it was in anticipation of the shift going away. I think the addition of Gallo, the addition of Odor, the addition of Hicks, even as far back as Hicks, all of these were anticipation of the shift going away. Or, the shift really, to be honest, when I say going away, it's really being limited. You keep two defenders in the infield on each side of second base, and you're only allowing, two outfielders necessarily to be on one side of the field at the beginning of each play. Otherwise, it's basically a balk. That's how you limit it. It's not anything drastic, and you could still do things by like, oh, this guy pulls the ball, let's switch the shortstop and the second baseman. You still have the same number of fielders on each side. It's just, now you have a guy who's got more range and more athletic skill set on this side. So there's still strategy here, and it's really cool strategy because it's clear. It's like, this guy pulls the ball because they just moved the shortstop over there. That could be cool. And then you get diving play by the shortstop, and he jumps and throws, and they got him by a foot or whatever. You get what I'm saying. More exciting plays on defense, more action on offense. It's why Manfred, when he was talking about big changes going on in the game, he talked about it being the 10th inning rule going away. He talked about the DH coming to the National League. He talked about limits on the shift, because all of these are very straightforward and would really help baseball out. I've always said more action is needed, not necessarily shorter games. And certainly, I remember watching a couple of nights ago, maybe a week ago or something like that, there was this like 4-hour game where I think Boston got like 20 hits, something like that. And I remember just being like, man, this was really exciting. Even as a Yankee fan, I know good baseball. So this was really exciting. And I remember thinking like those 4 hours, that was a long time, but it felt like a really fun, long time. It felt really engaging. And I'm like, see, that's it. That's 100% it. It's not about how long games are. It's all about the action. It's all about the action. So, shift goes away. DH comes to the National League. You want to talk about, lots and lots of hitting. Initially, I was really on board with the 10th inning rule, but now I don't know how I feel about it, because it is very exciting and it does add a lot of action. But also, to counter that, if teams are able to do any sort of cheating consistently at their home ballparks and get away with it, teams already have a home field advantage on top of the home field advantage that, normally already exists in baseball from playing at the same place all the time and being able to bat last and just walk off. The biggest advantage on top of that you can get outside of cheating is, having guys already be on base with no outs in a game where as soon as somebody scores, where it's tied, it's over. You see what I'm saying? So, but at the same time, like, both teams get the opportunity to get a guy on second base. So, like, I don't know. It creates a lot of hitting, a lot of running, a lot of small ball, a lot of late inning action that people would say, would leave the game if the DH came to the National League. So yeah, no, like we got the Brewers Braves game on here. I'm sorry that the Brewers are doing something, or is it the Braves or the Brewers ballpark? They're doing something incredible. So if you guys want to see something great, you guys need to really start checking out some of these playoff games, because these ballparks, they do incredible stuff. They just brought out this thing where they turned the lights down in the stadium and everybody took out the lights on their phones, and they had it somehow planned when a reliever came out. So that just blew me away. And, that's the other thing. Baseball needs showmans. Baseball needs people to do this type of stuff to get crowds excited. But anyway, we'll talk more on the next show about how specifically the shift leaving the game really will impact everything. And we got a Kevin Costner quote about it too, coming for you from Bull Durham. And if by the time, our next show comes out, if you guys can name what Kevin Costner quote that is in the comments, we'll do a little bit of a shout out. Why not? Sound good, Chris?
It sounds perfect to me.
All right. Well, that's it for me today. That's all I got.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe. Don't forget to visit our Twitch and visit the subscribe Twitch over there and join us for our live streams every Sunday. Yes. Let's go. Let's go. Subscribe.